Hi everyone, welcome back to the Flat Thunder channel. My name's Andy, if you're just tuning in. And this big beautiful green machine here is the parts truck for the channel icon truck. Got a whole bunch of good parts on this truck. We need to get them off of here, and we need to get this truck out of here. This truck has been hanging out here at our property for way too long. You can see in the back we already removed the rear differential, both fuel tanks. Now we need to get the rest of the drive line out of there, front end off, drop it down, take anything else out off of it that we're going to keep. Let's get after it. Free 4x4 drive shaft. Rotate it where you need to so you can access the bolts on the U-joints. Put her back in the lock position. Now the drive shaft is fixed, and you can release those nuts that are securing the U-joints in and remove the drive shaft. I already did that on this, but I'm going to go ahead and pop this guy out of here. Well, this simple four-wheel drive shaft sure did turn into a project. Had to get the torch out, a couple different punches and chisels, big pry bar, trusty WD-40, and she still put up a pretty good fight. I got all filthy, dirty. But we finally got it. There she is. The side and the transfer case turned into a real bear because you couldn't really get in there to knock off the U-bolts. Here's a U-bolt that gave me a bunch of trouble. You can't reach this backside to hammer it out. She's rusted in there pretty good if you can't tell. There's the marks from the chisel. Best I could do was get the chisel in at this angle and try to pound her out after heating it up and hitting it with WD-40. We got it, but it put up a pretty good fight. Front radius rod for the I-beam suspension. This mounting bracket is just all bolted in and not riveted, so I'm going to try to get the bolts out of this, keep this bracket. It's a rain and rust. There's one. You got two there, one up there. Got the radius arms disconnected from the frame. That was a real challenge, and I don't know why. This side I tried to cut off, but I couldn't get in there. I got them half cut off and ended up unscrewing them still afterwards, which I don't know. I didn't think they were gonna come off, and I couldn't get in there good enough to cut them off completely, so yeah, that took forever. You didn't need to hear that or see that. All you saw was my feet from sticking out from underneath the truck and me yelling at it. So we got the brackets for the radius rods off. We got the front wheels and tires off. I have it supported on jack stands right at the transmission cross member. I have cribbing in the back. I did have cribbing there as well, but it wasn't sitting on it at all, so I moved it to the front. There's the cribbing. What we're trying to do is trying to get the suspension out of here and drop everything down so it's on the frame or just raised off the deck ever so slightly. so the engine and tranny is lower and we can slide it all out. But it got sketchy real fast because when I put it on those jack stands and lowered it, the front end just kept going down, 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 down. Obviously I didn't have those blocks there. When that happened, the back end was way up in the air. So my jack stands here are basically acting like a teeter-totter. The front end was going way down. I was pivoting off of that, and there was no weight in the back. All the weight is in the front. So we blocked it there. I mean, hopefully that takes care of things, but she's still a little bit more shaky than I'd like her to be. And I think I'm shaking the whole trailer now, but before I had all the cribbing up here and everything nice as it is now, the wind was blowing the truck and you can feel it shaking, so that's no good. But I think we're solid now. Just for safety, I'm going to keep the jack under wherever I'm working at. Right now, need to get the sway bar off, get the steering suspension off, the brake lines, the shocks, then we should be able to lower this down and release the coil spring pressure. I want you to take a look at this side. Look at this this steel brake line. I mean, look at that, where the rubber meets into the steel. Look at that swelling. It's all that rust jacking in there. It's got it blown way up. And I wouldn't be surprised if the inside of this plastic or line or tubing is shrunk way down to almost nothing. That's what happens a lot to these flexible lines. The material will degrade and deteriorate, and the hole will shrink down to next to nothing, and then your brakes will stay locked on or won't work right. This here is just rust jacking, but I wouldn't be surprised if the hose is swelled up on the inside and shrunk down too. I don't even know how that's hanging on. Took a little longer than what I wanted, but we used that blade on quite a few other cuts. The sway bar here, the bottom of the shock, tie rod end, all heavy metal. Wasn't very forgiving and wasn't very nice to it, but it still managed to do the job. I never expected it would cut that. Here we are on the passenger side. We got to do basically the same procedure that we did on the driver's side. I didn't show you much of that, just wanted to progress along. I'm going to cut the sway bar link up here because I'm never going to use it with a sway bar. But I'm going to cut it here. This bracketry and stuff on the spring mount I'll leave. That way someone else can use it if they need it at a later date. I have to get rid of the tie rod ends. I just cut the other side because I couldn't get the cotter pin out and I didn't want to mess around with it. So what we're going to do here, we're going to cut the sway bar, cut the tie rod, and probably cut the spring over here too. We cut it on the other side because I couldn't get this top clamp loose. Cut the bottom of the shock off, and then we got to remove the brake line as well. The other side was so rusty, I was cutting the line and it broke off right here as I was doing it. There, it just broke off right there. Get us a rag to catch that. Anyways, you get the picture. I'm gonna put you in the time lapse here so you don't get bored out of your mind. The other side I used the special carbide tip blade on the Sawzall. Just wanted to try it out. Worked pretty good. Wasn't really what it was intended for, but it did motor through all that metal. I was really surprised it made it through that coil on the spring there. That was pretty impressive. Took a long time, but it managed to make it through there. I think it was pretty well spin at the end though. So anyways, we're gonna use the hot saw on this side just to expedite things. Stick back, enjoy the show. Was that messy or what? Some big dummy, when they cut the shock, ruptured the pressure tank and blew pressurized oil everywhere. Stupid. Good thing I have this face shield on. If you don't have one of these, get one. You need it when you're using the hot saw for sure, or when you're going to blow pressurized oil all over the place. Didn't do that when I used the Sawzall on the other side, so maybe my angle of attack or my blade was a little bit wider than the Sawzall. I don't know. Alright, we have the driver's side I-beam loose. If you didn't notice what I was doing, I was sawing off the bracketry that holds on the I-beam in the middle for the driver's side I-beam. Now I still have the passenger side I-beam, and the reason I'm doing that is because even if I can get the bolts out, which it looks relatively reasonable, I probably could get the bolts loose or the nuts off, but 9 times out of 10 that bolt is rusted solid inside that sleeve, inside the rubber bushing, and you just spend an eternity, a lot of cursing, and just have a really difficult time trying to get that bolt out of the sleeve that's in between in the bushing. So we're throwing this whole frame away. We're going to scrap it. So why not take the suspension out so we can work on it out in the open air freely and more easily. More than likely I'll probably have to cut what's left of the brackets off, press out the old bushing, and press in a new bushing. So right now I'm going to get the passenger side I-beam, which is on the driver's side. Murphy's Law dictates that the Camry battery or the memory card is going to get completely full and or dead right before the good shot. So took a moment to check the camera, and well, she's almost out of here, hanging on by one little piece, and I lost her somewhere in between then and now. So hopefully she's going to come down here real shortly. Ta-da! That jib crane's not really meant to pull sideways, it's really only meant to lift vertically. So we're going to try to get this over to the edge of the trailer as much as we can so we can get more of a straight lift. Now, keep in mind, we're keeping these parts as spare parts for the old Flat.Thunder flatbed truck here. This is the meat and potatoes of a 4x4 driveline from the mid-80s to approximately 95. This is a 95. All the components are more or less the same. This one has sway bars mounts, but other than that, it's more or less the same. Slightly different calipers, upgraded calipers. They say upgraded calipers. They have different slide pins. But here she is. Radius arm, passenger side I-beam, hub, caliper. What's left of your coil spring. There's your jack shaft. It has to be able to flex since this side moves independently of the driver's side. Differential, of course. Radius rod on the driver's side, the knuckle and the hub, coil spring again. So I forgot, the last time I've moved a grouping of this, or front axle grouping, what I did to separate it is I popped this boot loose, took off this crappy clamp, and this is a slip yoke spline shaft, so we can slide the passenger side off from the driver's side without disassembling it more. We just need to take that boot loose. I don't even bother saving these anymore. I tried to put these on more than once or reinstall them, and it just doesn't happen. Come on, baby. All right. There's our spline shaft, and our passenger side is separate from our driver's side. So that worked really good. Just need to lower her down, move her around, and then get the other half. Last one to load. Alright everyone, thanks for watching this video and me taking apart the big mean green parts machine for the old flatbed truck here. Sitting on the back of the truck, we got a new rear differential and then a new front twin I-beam axle that we could use on this truck. Really I only put it on the back of the truck so we can move it around, get it off the trailer one, but I think while we have it on the back of the truck, we're going to take it and get it steam cleaned or pressure washed while it's up there. That way we can get all the grease and grime off of it, and then we'll find a proper way to store it. Probably going to palletize it so we can get it up in the pallet rack. Still got a lot more to do on this old truck. The rest of it's basically just scrapping it. I'm going to take the engine, the transmission, and the transfer case out. I think I'm going to keep parts of the engine because there were some new parts that were replaced on it. And I think I'm going to keep the transmission and the transfer case. Whole engine I'm not for sure on yet, but the rest of it, it's more or less scrap. So you're looking at it. Right now, I'm all dirty. Got tools everywhere. Need to get this truck back down to a lower position so it's more safe on the trailer. Right now she looks a little sketchy. Things weren't sketchy before, they're definitely sketchy now. I was supporting it in the front, and then I realized I needed to take the blocks out of the back, so I let the front down and I came to the back and there was very little to no resistance on the blocks in the back here, the cribbing, so I took it out. And when I did, she started to teeter-totter a little. Ooh. She's held by the winch and just balanced on those two jack stands. It's a balancing act, if you know what I mean. So you don't want to get anywhere underneath that. It's a good chance this might fall. We'll have to see what happens. That was bad. Caught the edge of the old Flat Thunder truck there and bent the railing, so I have to fix that. Other than that, everything else is pretty good. We might be sitting on the oil pan of the truck, but oh well. No one's hurt, everything is good. We're just gonna have to try to get this thing shoved over in the trailer a little bit better. Oops. Told you it was sketchy. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Flat Thunder channel. It's another Sunday fun day here. It's a balmy, almost 90 degrees, or at least on its way to 90 degrees. We decided it's time to come out here and play with this old truck. I'll take you up here in a minute. As you can see, the flatbed's lassoed up to the front end here, and I removed the hood, removed all the wiring, removed the radiator, drained the radiator, which you'll see here. I'm going to put a clip in before or after pictures or a short video from the cell phone. Had a nice little antifreeze luge going on there for a minute. So I'm going to take you up there, just give you a brief summary of what we did, just to go over it before we take off this front. Started off by popping the inner fender wells out of each side. Then I was able to reach up in here and unthread all the electrical connections from the cab, and then drape all the wiring over the engine. Of course, as I mentioned, I got the radiator as part of my radiator luge down there to drain it, the antifreeze, into our bucket over there. So we pretty much got the radiator, all the stuff over here out, all the stuff over there out. I still have a extra transmission cooler in there that I need to remove. It's like an auxiliary cooler for heavy duty towing maybe. So I need to remove that. And then we're going to try to lop this whole front end off as one big piece. This is a setup. I couldn't quite get back where I wanted to be with the truck. I needed maybe another foot or so of travel. So this is as good as we can get. Doggy. Alright, that's loose. Too much tension. A lot of pain in that butthole. finally. Made a boo-boo there, sticking my arm in between the fender and the front clip that we're cutting off when I was trying to cut it, so it kind of slid forward and cut me a little bit. Stupid, don't do that. All right, made it up there, didn't drop it, or aside from pinching me a little bit, didn't have any major injuries, so that's good. I never really took anything off like that before, especially not a whole front clip like that. May or may not make this like a wall decoration, so it could be the whole front end still on the fence. That's the main reason we took it apart like that. We'll see how it goes. Whew. It's a little toasty here today in the Midwest. Temperature today is 91 degrees with a heat index of 99. A little toasty, but the show must go on here, and I need to get a video out to you guys. As you can see, the big mean green parts machine here, the front end is ripped off. We took that off previously. Now we're trying to get the engine out of here. Engine and transmission is one combo. Starting to overthink it way too much. I wanted to jack it up and then disconnect the cab, and it just got all sorts of loosey-goosey and squirrely on there, and that's just not a valid option. So we're just gonna go ahead and tear at it and see what happens. I don't want to lift it up because it gets uneasy. I'm just gonna lop it off. We're gonna try to crank this out of here as one whole pack. Let's get to it. Enough talking. It's way too hot to be sitting here jabberjawing. Woo! I think she's loose. Well, this side's obviously cut. Give you a walk around to the other side. We gotta get that side yet. Got some blocks here for safety, so in case it toggles left and right, and then the jack, of course, supporting it, and also some more blocks over here just as safety. And we're gonna try to cut this guy somewhere in this region here. This side's only different because the fender's still on. You guys sit tight here, watch this, and let me know if anything bad's gonna happen, because we're just gonna lop that other side off. Now we're going to try to see if we can't move it forward. The transmission, a rubber mount for the tail housing, is detached, but the studs are still sticking through the cross member. So we're going to have to try to see if we can lift up the tail housing and get the transfer case up over the cross member. I don't know if that's going to work or not. We'll see. Hopefully we can get it far enough forward so we can see what happens. Woo! It's hot. There's just no room in between that transfer case and the bottom of the cab, or at least enough to get it out of that rubber mount and over that cross member. So I'm gonna try to loosen up these cab mount bolts, which are right up there and directly above us here. So hit it with a good old WD-40. Got our big 3/4 inch drive China special ratchet here. And oh, wait, are you just happy to see me? Or is that a big hog extension in your pocket? Oh, it's my 3/4 inch drive extension. Also made in China. Whew, I can barely see. So we're gonna hit those with WD-40 and hopefully we can get those retaining nuts off. Just lift the cab up a little bit. Now what's probably happened is I'm probably just spinning the bolt in the upper cab. We're gonna have to get in there, tear the carpet out of the back, or get behind the back seat, look down in there and try to get a wrench on it. As you can tell, for my added convenience, I already removed the entire dash steering column assembly, but unfortunately I put it all back there, and all that is in my way, so we're gonna have to drag that out of there, or at least back up in the front seat so we can get the top of those bolts. All right, we got all that shoehorned out of the way up here in a nice big pile. But the next problem is the power seat, and everything's disconnected. So it's a little tough sneaking my big body in between there, but we're able to get in there. Forgot how cool these seats were. This seat tips up, then you peel that carpet up back. I gotta get in there. Peel this carpet up. And then right there is your body mounting bolt. I'm gonna use this old receipt here to try to wedge my box end wrench on there. That way, hopefully, if I turn it slowly, it'll rotate around and go up against the body. Hopefully. I think the wrench is off again. Try the opening this time. Oh, I think it's loading. All right, everybody, finally got it. We got tired of playing games. We had to get the hot saw out, cut the heads off from the inside. It was a really bad fire hazard, so of course we have a fire extinguisher, and then if that doesn't work, we got a can of oil in there. That way we can just get rid of this thing and be done with it. That was a tight squeeze. It's hot, a little tricky, but really was the only option to get those bolts out. So now the back's loose, we gotta get the front loose, then we'll be in business. Time we're all said and done, took all this crap just to get out 2 bolts. That's what you're dealing with when you're working on these old trucks, and yeah, that was just poor planning on my part. Should have took those out earlier. All right, here's the front ones. Has this weird stud in it. I wonder if that'll unscrew without putting a bolt on the top or a wrench on the top. Maybe we'll just lop these off. Ooh. And it did not go through. Son of a. Hey everybody, welcome back. I cut out for a minute. I was having some real troubles cutting off the front cab mount bolts. I tried to lop off the bottom, they were just like welded in there together, and then the top was so rusty it was just staying down on the pad. If you look here, you know, this part here is supposed to be with the cab, and I ended up having to cut it in there. I was really struggling because I didn't have a long enough bit, well, long enough blade that wasn't all worn out. Believe it or not, I went to a nail embedded wood blade because that's all that I had that was long enough. I was able to lop through this side. It's paper thin. The frame finally dropped down. Now as you can see, we're already starting to pull it forward. Still have to remove the shifter linkage right there. We got some fuel lines that are getting really tight. Have to get up there and see if we can uncouple those. To get the transmission out of the crossmember, I had to jack it up a little bit. Looks like I have to jack it up more because the transfer case is going to catch on that crossmember there. So I'll jack up the rear of the transmission a little bit. Then we'll continue winching it forward. First, I gotta try to get those fuel lines off. Use my quick disconnect tool on those fuel lines, pop the safety off, strap one of these on there. Those fuel lines slipped right off. I was really surprised. It's probably the first time those have ever been off. Now let's just get to it. All we gotta do is keep winching it back towards the back and make sure the transmission doesn't catch on anything, and disconnect that shifter linkage once it comes out far enough. Come to daddy. Oh, we're hung up. Stuck on the bottom of the transfer case on that crossmember. Kind of got a cattywampus in there. Whoop, my jack's getting a little crazy. The wires. All right, we did it. The engine, transmission, and transfer case is out from underneath this old rust bucket, and now we can fully access everything and take it apart more easily. To tell you the truth, the whole process didn't go quite as I planned. After she fell over and smushed that jack stand, I was a little bit leery of picking her up again, so we fashioned up this plan and we're able to do it. One reason I did it like this is because I wanted to show you that even with just your regular home improvement or garage tools, you can accomplish a complete teardown like this. Otherwise, I would have got the tractor here or the skid loader here, and we would have just ripped this thing apart real easy. Right now, the way it is, the only thing special that we used was a little jib crane on the back of the pickup truck, and that's more or less your cherry picker or a shop crane if you have one. So you too could do something like this with just your regular everyday ordinary tools, less the trailer, of course. It was a little bit of a battle. I didn't originally plan to do it like this, but here we are. Now I can separate the transmission from the engine without crawling around underneath this old rickety thing, and we can take these pieces off of here, get rid of that section of frame. The rest of it's going to go to the scrap hopper unless somebody wants what's left of this cab. The door, the driver's side door, is pretty nice, but I don't know. If you need an interior cab component, drop down in the comment section, let me know. If it isn't too big from the interior and you send me the postage and or shipping fee, I'll mail it to you for free. Less the computer. I'm keeping the computer and all the wiring. If you like this video series, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Leave all your questions and comments in that section below, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, everyone. It's time to say goodbye to the big mean green parts machine. I think probably the next time you see this, it'll be shredder stock, and or we'll just have the main components such as the engine, transfer case, and the front and rear axles. So it's time for this thing to go. She's been here way too long. Thanks for watching, everyone.